Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1:01 p.m. We're coming out of recess from the morning session for the purpose of hearing land use items. We have two items on the agenda today. One is a use by special review, which will be done in public hearing. The other are some regulatory changes also to be done in public hearing. But for the first, we'll have staff present. We'll ask applicant or applicant rep to provide any other additional information. We may have questions during that period. At that point, we'll open for public comment. After public comment, we may again have questions or input from staff and the applicant, and then we will come to a decision. Generally it's either to approve with conditions, disapprove, or if we don't feel we have the information needed to make a decision today, to continue. But with that, I would ask for a motion to open public hearing for the Christmas in the Sticks SUR.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the hearing for Christmas in the Sticks SUR-2024-2522.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to open public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. But Emily, just to make sure for the record, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Thayer.
Here.
Commissioner Richardson.
Here.
Commissioner Schroeder.
Here.
All righty. So we have a quorum and we're open for public hearing. At this point, I'll turn over to staff for presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll be presenting Christmas in the Sticks special use by review this afternoon. A little summary of this project. It is located at 25220 Highway 86 on the south side. The property is approximately 40 acres and is currently zoned agriculture. The request before you is a special use by review for an amusement/entertainment venue, and we will get into the details of everything that includes today. So the location of this site is approximately 16 miles east of Kiowa on Highway 86. As you can see on this zoning map, the property is surrounded by other agriculture zoned property. And we do have a site photo for you here, sort of at the entrance of the site off of the highway. It is currently vacant. And a summary of what's being requested: the applicants are requesting the special use by review essentially to have a drive-through Christmas light path. In addition to that, there would be a Santa's Village with holiday-related activities on site. The project would operate for approximately 30 days per year from roughly late November through early January. And all of the proposed structures on site are temporary. There's no permanent construction proposed. I do have the SUR exhibit for you. I know this is very difficult to see, so we have a blow up that's a little more color coded. You can see the access point is circled in green off of Highway 86. The drive path is highlighted in yellow. There is a proposed parking area outlined in blue. The Santa's Village area is that red rectangle. There is proposed screening with temporary privacy fences that are highlighted in that in those purple lines. Those are designed to prevent any light from impacting any adjacent properties or the highway. That's why those are located in that area. And then there is an emergency access proposed to go essentially straight through the site. It's shown in that orange dashed line, so that if there were emergency on site, any vehicle, an emergency vehicle could access the site without being stuck in the drive-through light path. And so just to talk a little bit more about this proposal, this was originally came to the county with a pre-app in May of this year. The applicants held a community meeting in July. The proposal did go through 2 standard review cycles through September and October of this year. All notice requirements were met per the Elbert County zoning regulations. The project was reviewed and commented on by all of the agencies shown on the screen. There are not any outstanding issues, concerns, or comments from any of the agencies regarding the proposed SUR. Public comments on this project. At the community meeting back in the summer, there were 4 residents in attendance. Those residents were opposed to the project. I will mention the project had a little bit different scope at that time. It was a larger project with a number of additional features. In working with the applicant, they have scaled it back to what would be proposed right now. For additional clarification, this is not proposed for the 2024 holiday season. That would be a very quick turnaround. It just happens to coincide here in the month of December. The applicants have scaled back the proposal to the 40 acres that are directly adjacent to Highway 86 with the features that were shown. There are limits on the SUR that does limit them to those features. So I know at the community meeting there was some discussion about other activities, maybe in different seasons. That is not a part of this SUR and would require an amendment or an additional SUR to come back before this board if the applicants did want to make those changes in the future. That's pretty far out in their potential scope, and so today is limited to what we discussed, the holiday Christmas light path. Back to the public comments, the concerns were potentially the noise impact, light impact, and traffic along Highway 86. Included in the packet, there was an additional written comment received in August. I will note that was received before the application was even received by the county, so that was obviously in response to the community meeting. Additional public comments have not been received outside of the Planning Commission meeting. This application was held before the Planning Commission on December 3rd. In that meeting, 6 members of the public spoke about this project. 3 spoke in favor of the project, and 3 members of the public spoke in opposition of the project. Again, the major concerns noted were potential noise, potential light, and potential traffic issues. At that December 3rd hearing, the Planning Commission voted 5-2 to recommend approval with conditions. I have a summary of the approval criteria, word for word approval criteria with analysis is provided in the staff report. Sort of a summary of those. Letter A is whether the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area. It was found that it could be found that this is compatible and in harmony given the very short time frame of what's being requested, again, approximately 30 days per year. The applicants have made specific notations on the plans to try and mitigate any impacts. Letter B, would there be an undue burden on infrastructure? Per the standard protocol, this was reviewed by our Public Works Department. It was also reviewed by CDOT, and the applicants have worked extensively with CDOT for an access permit and to meet all the CDOT regulations. Therefore, it is not believed that there would be an undue burden on infrastructure. Similar, letter C, an increase in traffic or burden on the road system. Again, in this particular case, that really falls back to Highway 86. Letter D, would it cause air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution? It is not anticipated. Again, the light, there is a specific hours of operations that are noted in the exhibit, which would limit the time that any lights would be on, and the noise, similar to those hours of operation, so that is very limited in nature. Letter E, sanitation requirements would be met. The applicants are aware of the requirements for portable restrooms on site and will meet all the requirements of the health department regarding those. Letter F, adequately landscape buffered and screened. As you can see from the site photo, it's a heavily treed area, and the applicants are proposing to add additional screening where necessary to avoid any issues with buffering or screening from the roadway or adjacent properties. Letter G, would it be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of current or future inhabitants of Elbert County? It is not believed to be so. And letter H, supplemental standards are met. There are not any additional supplementary standards that are applicable to this application. Therefore, based on the review of the approval criteria that we summarized from Article 3, letter E, subsection 5 of the Elbert County zoning regulations and the findings in the staff report, the Planning Commission does recommend approval with conditions of the Christmas in the Sticks special use by review. The 3 recommended conditions are the standard conditions. Number 1, the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing signs following a decision by this board. The SUR would not become effective until the fees are paid, conditions are met, and the exhibit is recorded. And number 3, recordation of the documentation to occur within 180 days of approval, the standard conditions. With that, staff is available to answer any questions. The applicants are also present to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Have any questions? Yeah.
I'd like to make a statement to the applicants. I live 2 miles due north of you off of County Road 122. If you feel uncomfortable having me be in the decision-making process, I'm willing to recuse myself if you ask. I don't think it's necessary, but I'm offering it to you as a polite, rational, reasonable thing to do.
My name is Danielle, and no, sir, thank you for offering, but we are 100% okay with it. Thank you.
Anything else? No? Did you present at the Planning Commission?
Did I present to the Planning Commission? Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah, for the 2 that voted against, did they state reasons or?
They did. Their concerns were some of everything that was touched on about the potential light and traffic. There was also a comment about sort of compatibility with the neighbors. Okay. And so there were concerns were the neighbors and essentially traffic were the 2 main reasons that they stated.
Okay, thank you. All right, at this point, I'd like to invite the applicant if you'd like to kind of provide deeper information about what your plans are and anything that you feel the staff didn't cover.
Yes, sir. Once again, my name is Danielle, just for the record.
My name is David McGlon.
And we just want to take a second and thank you for letting us present in front of you today and for your time. So this vision came to us approximately 2.5 years ago, and we have been diligently looking and planning for this event. It is a passion of ours. We love Christmas, and we love what the true reason is for Christmas, and we just hope to be able to present that to people in a palatable way. And we just love bringing joy to people, and we think that Christmas lights do just that for a majority. You know, we have big hopes to support the county, to support, you know, our family. We just have big plans, and so we're just excited to be able to stand up here in front of you. And I guess just to detail just a few things, we did decide to scale back our project in this immediate process due to the fact that we really are just wanting to focus on our drive-through path and then the Santa's Village. We think it would be a wonderful thing to bring here, to bring people to Elbert County and through to some of the local businesses around here. We have done what we believe to be a very thorough job addressing any and all concerns that have been brought before us. We have gone above and beyond to reach out to our neighbors to get their input on what their concerns are. We are still thankful for those that show up, even if they are opposed to what we are trying to do. We're just grateful for people making the time to come out and share their thoughts, because we really do want to try and be mindful and respectful to the best of our ability. And so I guess we can answer questions if there's anything more specific that we didn't cover in the proposal part, but I feel like that's pretty good.
Questions, or?
I drove by there yesterday because I live pretty close. The surrounding area, there's not any houses real close, is there?
Our closest neighbor is, he's just east of us. We've been in constant contact with him. And his house to the closest path to our drive-through area would be just over 300 feet away. And like I said, he comes over anytime we're over, he comes over and we chat. And, you know, he's told us, you know, he's not fully happy with it. It's our land, do what you want. But he has his concerns about traffic as well. But like in the proposal, we've showed him everything that we plan to do to mitigate traffic as much as possible because we know that can be a concern.
And when it was presented that you've downsized this to be a little bit more suitable for the area and that kind of stuff, were you going to use more land before, or were you going to use this piece of land in a more dense sort of a way?
We had proposed a potential event center on the second parcel. I believe it's parcel B. Is that? Yeah, parcel B. But that is so far down the road that we have put a pause on that piece, and we'll just focus on that front 40 acres. So it has been.
Pull that next piece down?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All three of those parcels are ours. It's a total of 120 acres. And initially when we went through the process, we were told to dream big, so you only have to come here once, and that's what we did. And then it's like, okay, well, that's way too much, so let's scale it down to what we were really wanting to focus on. And so.
Thank you.
Just a clarification question. Jennifer, you can put the picture back up that had the kind of that. Yes, that one. You read my mind. That's
My
terrific.
color-filled drawing.
The color-coded one. Just a question on the purple areas for the screening. I'm going to assume that has to do with terrain and foliage and how it might affect neighboring properties and how you decided where those were going to be.
Yes, so the one right there, right below where it says parcel A, that's like pretty much the only spot our neighbor right next to us can see into the property. Other than that, everything else is completely treed and we're kind of down in a bowl. And so then the very bottom one is like another spot where people could potentially, like lights could shine potentially into neighbor's property. And that's what we were working on doing, is just to make sure we try to do everything we can to keep headlights, even though we're going to tell people to turn their headlights off, like some cars you just can't these days. But any lights or any headlights will not shine into the neighbor's property as best as we could.
And so how high are those temporary fences?
We'll work on making them 6 foot high, just kind of like, just something we can put up or take down, whether it's, we've been collecting like Christmas trees people are throwing away or giving away, just to kind of build like even a natural looking barrier instead of just having like a stack of pallets or like plywood or something strewn across there.
Okay, very good. That's all I have at this time.
We are too far east of where they have proposed. So our property, yes, sir. And I do, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, that's good. I want to make sure that I'm looking at it correctly. Yes, sir. And I did want to clarify one more thing about the neighbors. So there are 3 houses down County Road 105, but they sit down in the valley, and our lights, the majority of them will be, again, in our bowl section in the treed area. So at one point, when they do come up at the top of the hill, that's where there is or might be a potential glare down towards one of the houses, which is why we are proposing to put up a screen barrier where that triangular purple fence was.
For the music associated with this, I was reading the packet, I wasn't quite sure. Are you planning to have outdoor speakers, or is this like the radio transmitter to inside the vehicle?
So we plan on doing outdoor directional speakers. I've been working with the gentleman that runs audio for our church.
Okay.
And to get something that you can only hear when you're within a certain distance, so it's not turned all the way up blaring music. Because we want each section to kind of have its own little theme music to it. And so we don't want even that music bleeding over into another section. So we did do a dB test, which I believe is in the proposal as well, just to show that even with a radio turned all the way up, we would still be below the 50 dBs on like 25 foot away from the fence. But we don't want to turn it up that loud.
All righty, well, thanks. I guess at this point I'd ask you to sit down. And
Oh, great.
we'll open for public comment and then we'll invite you back up. And
Thank
sorry that there was probably a smoother and less rude way to say that, but please step aside. Thank you. At this point, I'll open for public comment. Do we have any, ma'am? Yeah, if you could, we'd like to keep comment to about 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record.
All right. Brandy Snelling, I have County Road 105 and 86. So, hello, Chairman Richardson and Commissioners. I am a longtime resident of Elbert County and an employee. I'm objecting to the special use permit for the following reasons. So I'm going to kind of go along with the proposed criteria. So for the harmony and compatibility, the existing properties in the area are all agricultural. The property across from the proposed venue is currently pasture and have cows grazing. The property directly to the west of directly of the west is currently pasture and has cows grazing. The property to the northeast side of Highway 86 and County Road 105 is the Wheeler Ranch, and they currently have cows grazing. My property currently has cows grazing. An amusement and entertainment venue is going to disrupt this lifestyle. And it's not compatible with the surrounding area, and this doesn't even account for the numerous wildlife in the area. There's numerous herds of deer and pronghorn, and it's going to misplace those herds due to the traffic, the noise, and the excessive lights. B, it's going to cause undue burden of the infrastructure. At the last hearing that we had on this, they said there was going to be over 200 cars. They have now increased that to 300 to 350 in the package you guys have, with no more than 500 a day on that property. That is going to cause undue burden on the property and the surrounding property in the neighborhood. And they're also going to be doing a wedding venue, which is in the property or in the packet that you guys have. They're also going to be doing Christmas in July, Easter, and other holidays. They're going to be increasing this too. They say they're shrinking it, but in that package you guys have, they are going to be increasing this. They've already got a 10-year plan where this is going to be opened year-round. C, it's going to cause undue traffic and congestion. This is going to cause increased traffic congestion both east and west on Highway 86. The additional cars will be coming in the evening hours during bad weather conditions. Highway 86 from County Road 77 to I-70 does not get plowed during the hours of 7 p.m. to 5 a.m., and as we've seen currently, not at all.
Commissioners, 3 minutes.
If you have more, that's fine.
The highway in the area is very hilly, and it's treed, and it has a lot of wildlife in the area. No lights, and bringing city folks out here that is not accustomed to driving in that area, it's not going to be good for the wildlife or the area. D, it's going to cause significant air, odor, water, noise, and light pollution. At the Planning Commission meeting, the applicants stated that they will be using outdoor speakers, not piping the music into the cars. There will be noise pollution that is caused by significant pollution to the neighborhood, the wildlife, and the livestock. The additional 500 cars per day will be causing significant pollution to the air and the noise in the neighborhood. Screening is not going to stop that. And E, the use will be detrimental to the health and safety and welfare of the present and future inhabitants of Elbert County. The addition of the excess traffic from the people that are inexperienced at driving on this highway without the lights and without plowing in the winter will have a significant effect on the health and safety and welfare of the Elbert County citizens that live in this area. Even though Vicky, one of the applicants, stated to the Planning Commission that this is only going to affect 5 houses in the area, there are a lot of other homes in the area. And those people drive on Highway 86. The increased traffic will affect everyone in this area. The speed on Highway 86 is 65 miles per hour, and there's a lot of wildlife in that area, and the people without the experience of driving that road every day, that's not going to be a good mix. The 5 people that live out there have chosen to live out there to get away from this type of business, this type of events, and we do not want to bring it to our backyard. So please vote no on the special use permit. And please remember that Elbert County has a right to farm. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any other public comment? Sir?
My name is Sean Snelling. Live on County Road 105 in the triangular on the top section there. Bringing along the same lines, this is how they want to get their foot in the door. They downsized, they said, I would ask that you look at the packet before any decisions are made or even put off until you can have a chance. They state by their own packet that by year 2, phase 2 of year 2, they will have already begun construction on permanent structures. They have 120 acres that they have already stated in there over the 10-year plan in 4 phases they will be expanding. They will be utilizing all 120 acres for this project. This is not small to stay small for any reason. It's a business, and a business is meant to grow and profit and expand. Just looking at the map, that's all it is, ag. There's nothing but trucks, trailers, horses, cattle, goats, sheep, nothing. There's not even a single use permit out there at this time. That's what we do out there. We ranch, and that's the way we'd like to keep it. Again, we moved 16 miles east to get away from this exact thing. I understand you can buy the property cheap. I understand that it's only 5 families that get affected. I can hear that. But those are families that have made their choice to get away from it. But this is not going to stay small. This will grow. It's not a long-term plan. The second phase starts in 2 years. So I would just ask that you guys really look at the plan and where this is going and what this is going to turn into in less than a decade. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So with that, I'll close public comment. And based on that, do you have questions?
I may have a question or two, but I'd like to hear how the applicant would respond to the public comments.
Yes, sir. So once again, we are just very open and thankful for people bringing their concerns.
Can you please speak into the mic a little bit closer, please?
Yes, sir. Is that better? Like I said, we just wanted to say thank you for people coming and expressing their concerns so we can address them. In regards to it being conducive to the surrounding areas, we do plan to have a Christmas tree farm section, which we did not present before the board today because that is not required under a special use review. And so we have left that out of this proposal. We have also been in contact with the property owner to the west of us. He leases it from the gentleman who owns it, and he is already planning to lease from us as well for his cattle. We have been in contact to make that happen here in the springtime or summer. And so we do plan to keep that 80 acres to the south of us as agricultural conducive as possible. This is just in regards to the front 40 acres. We also do plan to invite people from the community who do have horses to do a cowboy nightlight ride, to, again, try to be mindful of what the people in that area might want to do, to be able to ride their horses and keep it, again, collaborative with what the community is already doing as far as ranchers are concerned. So that would be it for the conducive of the land. In regards to traffic, when we had our traffic memo conducted by John Aldridge and from CDOT, who approved the traffic study, they did express in the comment that traffic could increase tenfold and it would still be okay and cause minimal delay from cars traveling east to west, but tenfold from what's already currently being counted, and I'm not sure what those exact numbers were. Yeah, but the traffic memo should be included in the packet as well with those numbers. Okay, great, sir. Thank you. So we also have plans to work with Colorado State Patrol that we are required to have them present. One of the planning commissioners did bring up that was opposed to this SUR in regards to signage. We have followed up with CDOT since that planning commission held on December 3rd, and what they indicated to us is to get signs, warning signs of slow down, event approaching, that sort of concept. We would need to work with local law enforcement or Colorado State Patrol in order to get those signs approved. If they do not allow those signs, we are required to have an actual patrolman helping direct traffic off of Highway 86 into the property. Once inside of the property, we have also been diligently working in our brainstorming of how do we get cars off of the highway and onto the property to minimize any delay that could be created on Highway 86. And lastly, I will add in regards to safety for the hill that she was describing, Bruce Barnett from CDOT came out and approved our access point as well as the emergency entry point, and he did say there's over 1,000-foot clearing vision in both directions that allows for plenty of sight to not create an issue when coming down that hill. And as far as, extensive light noise pollution, we're also, again, going to be open for less than 30 days, which I think we included in there as less than 9% of a total yearly calendar.
Yes, and then I'd like to, go on the light pollution and everything. We have worked with the dark skies, which I believe is written in the packet, and even though they've said they haven't done an extensive study on the Christmas lights affecting anything around, that they don't see that there could be any harm compared to a typical like porch light or something of that standard.
If you could, and I know that, excuse me, the packet includes a 10-year plan with, I know staff and yourself had said you'd scaled back, but I'd like to hear from you and staff kind of discreetly what this request is for, and anything else beyond that would be a second request or a modification at future hearings. But if we could just clarify exactly what is going to be constructed.
Jennifer, do you want us to go first?
What
Either
uses
way,
are
I'll just-
contemplated under this request?
Absolutely. So this request is limited to the 40 acres directly south of Highway 86. I know this is a little bit hard to read. I've clipped these notes, though. These notes are included on the SUR exhibit, and they limit the days, operating hours. They provide a lot of detail about exactly what is included. So, 4 or 5 years from now, right, if this is happening and successful and they want to expand, they would have to either amend or get a new SUR because they would be limited to the specifications that are included on here. And again, staff worked with the applicants to include those. They felt comfortable with those for this initial phase. One of the issues with, or I guess one of the reasons why sort of anything and everything, right, was not included on the current proposal, has a couple of factors. One being the level of detail, right, that would be needed to be included is simply unknown at this time, right? They want to work through, right, how successful this initial phase is, and those types of details. There's also potentially, right, limitations on how long the approvals are good before pulling building permits and things like that. And it's clearly known, right, that those things would not happen within those timeframes. And so, again, staff and the applicants work together, understanding rather than getting extensions and going through these types of processes where that really just wasn't a possibility on the immediate horizon. It was limited to sort of what you heard today. The SUR does not include any permanent structures. So if the plans change, again, it would have to come back before the board. I believe CDOT also has some stipulations for you all about if things change, right, that they would have to go back through CDOT, and there's additional CDOT requirements that are sort of above and beyond, right, our requirements regarding this SUR as well. I can certainly cover anything else, but I think that's
Yeah, if
highlight.
you could bring up the color-coded map again.
Yes, sir. Do you like that map?
Yes.
I worked hard on that. I just find the white graphics very hard to see, so I added color.
Yeah, I guess the question really, and you had brought it up, was traffic queuing off of 86. I assume folks are going through this at a very low rate of speed. So on this, could you kind of describe, I mean, if you have several hundred people per day, most folks are going to try to show up when you first open. I'm just kind of curious how do you feed traffic into parking and then back out onto this, or it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of space coming right off the highway to keep traffic from backing up onto the highway waiting to get into the venue?
Yes, sir. So where you see the green circle, yes, once you come in and up to down and this way towards the blue proposed parking lot, in that section, approximately 60 cars can fit into that 2-lane space, right, when they're coming into the property. There is plenty of room for them to slow down before as well as onto the property. And then once they get up to the top where the proposed parking lot will be, and that's going to be once Santa Square starts to get constructed, in that space is where we can weave cars in and out there as well. And we also did some extensive math around, one, how long does it take a car to approximately travel 1 mile going 5 miles an hour, which takes approximately 30 minutes for one car to get through. And with a 15-foot distance between each car, which we feel is an appropriate safety distance between one vehicle versus the one behind them, and going through a 1.25 mile drive path, approximately 360 cars could fit in that as well. And that's not including when they come in of the 60 cars plus whatever we weave in and out. So it would need to extensively be all at once in order for that to become a significant issue. And by the grace of God, if we get there, we plan to go through ticketed sales only, where we would limit that and break it into sections to reduce traffic coming all at once like that.
The either traffic control through CSP or I'm assuming when you were talking signage, it's illuminated sign trailers. Would you accept the addition of a condition that one or the other needs to be in place while operating either? I know you said it's, if you can't get permission for signage, then you need to have CSP. I think there's a potential breakdown on both sides of that, so I'd like to see a condition that one or the other would be present during the time periods you're operating.
Yes, it's actually in our access permit from CDOT
Okay.
that we have to have state patrol
Okay.
on site.
Yeah, I think it would be useful for our compliance folks to have that documented with, anything that impacts us locally, like signage that would be local. We should document.
Yes,
Our
sir.
local
We absolutely welcome that because we do want to keep people safe. Of course, that's the very last thing we would want to have happen. So we are absolutely open to that condition. I do want to add one last thing about CDOT's requirements. We are to take a real traffic count and provide that documentation to them, and then they're going to review our access permit. Because if we violate, which this may help some people feel a little bit better in regards to just the traffic count or having Colorado State Patrol, they can remove our access and shut us down, fine us, et cetera. So we are absolutely gonna follow the rules. We're rule followers anyway. So we are very open to that condition, sir. Thank you for that.
And in your discussions with staff, I know you understand this is a special use by review is revocable, so if you aren't keeping to the agreements or what was actually permitted, that access or that use could be revoked.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. And the standard conditions of payment of fees, removal of signage, et cetera, I assume those were acceptable to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just a couple of questions, and this is in response to the public comment. One, one of them mentioned that there would be multiple activities per year through the summer and all that. As I read the application, it's limited to what I call the Christmas period.
Yes, sir. When we first brought it, like Jennifer said, we scaled it way back. We were talking, a wedding venue, and we were talking doing like Thanksgiving dinner for people, doing Easter egg hunts, things like that. But this only was because when we first started the process, we were looking for 40 acres, and that's all we cared about was this. But then we found this piece of property, and it's like, oh, now we open this so much more. And that's what they said, we'll go big. And it's like we did. But really, this is like our number one priority. And we didn't see doing anything else we know this is going to take a lot, so just trying to imagine doing something else.
But you do recognize that if you modify this permit, if it is approved, you would have to do a resubmittal to the planning department or to the planning office to, again, having the upgrade change brought before the then county commissioners.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. And we know that we'd have to go through the whole process over again as well.
Yes, I would, at this point, accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Christmas in the Sticks SUR 2024-2522 with the one modification in the approvals as recommended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval with conditions. Any final discussion?
No.
Yeah, and obviously heard the comments. I know you're continuing to work with neighbors. I know the concerns that were brought up with traffic are, I think, reasonable concerns. The traffic letter does cover on a macro level, but again, safety is going to be paramount through this. Looks like you have taken steps to control noise and light off the product. And again, I know it's kind of a learn by doing, but yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, we have a motion on the table for
Jennifer.
Oh, sorry, Jennifer.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Could we clarify what the additional condition language is? I believe Commissioner Thayer wanted to add an additional
Yes, and I'm talking about the additional condition that our chairman
Oh,
recommended.
yeah, and that was.
And the applicant said that they would do it. So
Yes.
if we need to take a 5-minute break while you write that, I'm cool with that.
Maybe if that's all right, just to draft
Yeah,
the
that's
exact
fine, but
language
it essentially would be
for the resolution.
that the operators there would be either traffic warning signs or traffic control provided by CSP or acceptable to CSP during all hours of operation. If that gives you a start to clean up a little bit.
Absolutely,
Alrighty,
thank
so
you.
it's 1:46. We'll take a 5-minute recess just so you can put it up on the screen, and then, but we do have a. Alrighty, it's 1:50. We'll call it 1:51. We're back out of recess. We had a motion on the table to approve with conditions. The fourth condition that was suggested was this one, that the applicant would be required to have traffic warning signs or traffic control found acceptable to the Colorado State Patrol during all hours of operations. I'm seeing nods from the applicant that they find that one acceptable. So with that motion and those conditions, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. I would accept a motion to close public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move we close public hearing on Christmas in the Sticks, SUR 2024-2522.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to close public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, that motion carries. We're out of public hearing. Congratulations. Thank you. So where do you guys live? Oh, okay. Cool. It's a good place to be. No. But thank you for bringing this here. I think you will be successful. Yeah. Yay. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, yes. If only. Okay, next item of business we have are a series of minor regulation updates. As a regulation change, we have to do this in public hearing, so I would accept a motion to open public hearing on this item.
Mr. Chair, I move that we open a public hearing on minor regulation updates as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and second to open public hearing for regulation updates. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. We're in public hearing. Kelsey, the floor is yours.
Perfect. And regulations are fun, okay? It's fun. Reading all the words, you know.
Saying it doesn't make it so.
Gotcha.
But I
All right.
appreciate that. No.
So I will be presenting the regulation update, like you said, super minor changes, nothing drastic. So we'll go to the next slide.
While we're preparing this, nothing looks controversial. Would you like to just roll through them and take this as one motion or approve every jot and tittle?
How old? You're ahead of the game. All right.
Alrighty.
So we have 10 proposed changes for the zoning and subdivision regulations. We can, like you just stated, we can make this one whole approval. If you have any conditions or changes, we can just make those specific to each numbered item at the end.
Okay, thank you.
So the list of items considered for update. So number 1, we have pre-application meeting waiver language. Number 2, reformatting the noticing templates for newspaper publications. Number 3, adjusting the language on radius report requirements. Number 4, adjusting language for co-locate permits. Number 5, just adjusting the language in Article 2, Section 5, letter D. Number 6 is continuance language. Number 7 is signature blocks on Mylar requirements. 8 is the minor SUR process, which is the minor special use by review process. Number 9, additional information added on radius reports. And lastly, 10 will be the sign posting affidavit language. Just to give a quick little timeline, these regulations went before the Planning Commission for a work session in July. They officially went in front of Planning Commission in October, and then here we are today for Board of County Commissioners. All right, so number 1, the pre-application waiver language. The proposed language is seen in the blue font. The only proposed change is the last sentence, and it states, at the discretion of the CDS director, a pre-application meeting may be deemed not necessary and therefore not required for an application. I will mention the Planning Commission did vote 6-0 to recommend denial to the Board of County Commissioners of this language. They did not support the idea that the CDS director could waive a pre-application meeting.
You want us to save our questions, or do you want us to?
I
take
can
them
do
as we
questions
go?
as we go or save them till the end, whatever you prefer. It might be easier to go with each item rather than save them at the end.
So, yeah.
So what exactly would be the trigger that would require a pre-application meeting as opposed to being waived?
Sure. So right now we do require all land use applications to have a pre-application meeting. An example could be someone doing a plat amendment to change a building envelope or adjust a property line, something that doesn't even go to public hearing. That's a super minor land use process that, you know, doesn't need a community meeting, has very little impact on the county. So a plat amendment would be a good example of when a pre-app meeting could be waived.
And if somebody goes off on their own without a pre-app meeting and what they turn in is junk, it's really on the applicant at that point.
Correct.
They didn't bring forward something to
Correct.
act on, so.
They would still be required to submit everything needed for the formal application. They wouldn't have as much guidance from the start.
I would just add the other instance where it comes up is projects where there's really only planning input and planning's already been working with them, answering their questions, and no one else really attends the pre-application meeting. That'd be another example where it might make sense to just waive that just for a time issue.
Yeah, I've kind of lost the bubble. At one point, I guess when we first started, there was no charge or there was no fee for a pre-app meeting, and then we put in place a nominal fee that was credited towards the application fee just to kind of be a little forcing function that if you're going to put some skin in the game to actually have the pre-app meeting, that you're not just going to disappear. Because we had quite a few projects over the years where they were pretty substantial. There was a lot of time and effort put in by a lot of entities to come together for a pre-app meeting, and then they just disappeared and we never saw them again. So do we still have that fee credited towards the application?
Correct, yes.
So, yeah. So either way, there's no pre-app meeting, there's no pre-app fee, but there's nothing to credit, there's still the full application.
Yes.
So, okay.
When the planning commission, you said voted 6-0 not to accept this particular change, give me a reason.
They thought that every land use application should have one, just to have the guidance, feedback, this, that, and the other. That was the main reason, and then they all agreed. Correct. Mm-hmm.
Well, from what you said, it sounds to me like that kind of happens informally anyway, without there being a formal pre-app meeting. If they're coming and asking questions, it kind of is along the line, not just a formal sit down.
Correct.
If it is that minor or there's going to be that much coordination, otherwise, because the other direction is then by regulation, you must make a phone call prior to the pre-app meeting. You must have read the regulations and understand what you want to do before you think you want to do it. I mean, there's got to be some cut off. And I do think, I mean, I'm okay with it.
Okay, we will move on to number 2 then. So number 2 is reformatting noticing templates for newspaper publications. This slide will also apply, so this one is for public hearing. This template will also apply to administrative decisions and when we send out notice for amendments of the zoning regulations. So instead of having 3 slides, I just have 1 of the same, and they will all look like this. So the red font is what the planning department initially proposed, and it is an updated telephone number to our planning department, and it stated all public comment due to the CDS email 1 week prior to public hearing. At Planning Commission, they voted to add in the language in the blue font, which reads must be submitted in writing and is. So altogether, they would like the new language to read all public comment must be submitted in writing and is due to CDS email 1 week prior to public hearing.
I don't want to get deeply into wordsmithing, but if we could, just must be submitted and received by CDS, just so we don't get into any tangles of,
Okay.
I put it in the mail a week before, or, you know, that it's actually physically in your hands.
So add in the word received.
Be submitted
between-
in writing and received by, rather than due to,
Okay.
yeah.
And could someone interpret this to be that they could only submit it by email?
It possibly could be interpreted that way, but we do take mailed in comments or email, just anything in writing. We've received both. So someone can take in writing as a piece of paper or digital.
You want to put our address, well,
You could add that couple of words,
mailing address, the PO box. And
or received in writing.
Would you mind, like, wording out how you would like it to be seen? So must be submitted in writing.
By mail, in person?
I think the word
Or
should be changed,
email.
not submitted in writing, it should be received in writing.
Or we could take out the email address and just say must be
Received by
in writing.
CDS,
That works.
yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Because if someone mailed it to our post office box, that would also count.
Yeah,
Count.
yeah,
Or came and dropped it off.
dropped it off.
That's not what it really says.
Right.
Yeah,
We can
so
take
I
out the
think just-
email.
So, yeah, if it's just received by CDS or SEDS or whatever the term of art is. Yeah.
So
You've got the phone number, so if somebody wants to
Yeah.
call for
We can put
for the
those.
email or the address,
Okay,
mailing
so
address.
then for the language, we changed it to all public comment must be submitted in writing and received 1 week prior to public hearing. Perfect. Moving on to number 3. So this is adjusting language on radius reports. The next couple slides, it's going to be repetitive, but it's just to provide clarity throughout the regulations. So this is for the zoning regulations, and what is being proposed is at the bottom of this land use application table on page 39, adding in the language, mailed notice required to be sent to surrounding properties, including those located in other counties within the 1320 radius, the quarter-mile radius.
Should that be registered mail?
So we have not updated the mailers in terms of what the specific requirements are. Like, we don't have it in stone that it's registered versus certified yet.
Because in the past 8 years, is that every once in a while people come in and say, oh, well, I sent it. They just claimed they didn't get it.
Right.
But if you have it as a certified mail or something like that, then there's a record.
So I believe the certified mail is coming with the next round of regulations, just because it's going to have to be changed in a number of spots. But it's on the list for the...
And if I remember right, the last three things that we've seen has been certified mail. So I think your department is recommending that to.
Correct.
Is this a common practice for other counties to notify residents outside the counties?
Yes.
Did have a question, though. I think in the text, it said they get the radius report from our assessor. Are they capable of providing the addresses outside the county, or
No.
do we have other language that needs to, or?
So we don't have specific language that like directs them how to obtain other county addresses. That would essentially be up to the planning department to relay that verbally, but it is common practice.
Okay, yeah, just, again, I guess if we're looking at other changes, just let's make sure that, I mean, if we can, or other county as appropriate, or, you know, other as appropriate type thing. I just don't want to get into the regulation says you're supposed to provide it, assessor, and the assessor can't. So, again, I think you can handle it procedurally and discussion-wise, but if there's language that needs to be changed, we can just catch that in the next one.
Yep. Okay. So again, on adjusting language, so this is page 43 of the zoning regulations. This is just an edit to the existing language to reflect the mail notices again. So the new proposed language is, when required, the applicant is responsible to ensure a notice of public hearing or administrative decision is sent to surrounding properties as specified in the table above, including those located within other counties. This little snippet is just below that table. Now, the next two slides, same concept, but this applies to the Elbert County subdivision regulations. The planning department recommended adding the language at the bottom of the table, which reads, again, mailed notice required to be sent to surrounding properties, including those located in other counties within the quarter-mile radius. So it's the same language below, that was below the table 2 slides back. In addition, the Planning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend that the Board of County Commissioners change. Number 1, the mailing radius requirement for vacation of right-of-way and public easements to the quarter-mile radius as well. In addition, they requested that the BOCC remove the and plats language in the vacation of right-of-way row column. So the second box up from the bottom, that is because plats is covered by preliminary plat, final plat, exemption plat. It's stated elsewhere, and it's just repetitive. Perfect. And the next slide, again, is the same thing as the zoning regulations, just adjusting the language. So it says, applicant is responsible to ensure a notice of public hearing or administrative decision is sent to surrounding properties as specified in the table above, including those located within other counties. Again, just to be repetitive and super clear. Perfect. Next one is adjusting language for co-locate permits. This is entirely new language to create clarification on when a co-locate permit is or is not needed. So the new language, when a co-locate permit is required, that is when a new carrier is locating on an existing tower, hence a co-locate. A co-locate permit is not required for like-for-like replacement of equipment, tower modifications not including height extensions, removal of existing equipment, or the addition of tower equipment not including ground equipment.
If I understand that right, you can do anything on the tower that exists without having to come to you. Okay.
So, so if they're just adding new antennas that doesn't increase the height or the footprint, then A-okay. Perfect. Number 5, this is simply just correcting some grammar. But this is adjusting language in Article 2, 5, Section D. It will now read, applicants shall submit the list, and this is in reference to radius reports. So applicants shall submit the list and an 11-inch by 17-inch map showing each property required to be notified to the CDS department no less than 10 and no more than 15 days in advance of a newspaper notice or the sign posting deadline. Failure to provide completed affidavit of mailing will result in rescheduling of hearings or decision. It's simply just fixing the grammar to make it make more sense. Any questions? Perfect. Number 6. So this is the continuance language. The next 2 slides after this one, it's going to be entirely the same. This one is for the Planning Commission. There's the next slide for Board of Adjustments and the County Commissioners. Essentially, they're all the same, just repetitive. So the blue language is entirely new, and the red language within that paragraph was proposed by the Planning Commission. The proposed language with the Planning Commission's recommendations read, continuances, the Planning Commission may continue the consideration of any application. Continuances may be requested by any Planning Commissioner, petitioner, or county staff, followed by a majority vote, and the reason for such requests entered into the record of the meeting. Continuances must be to a specific time and date not to exceed 3 months from the original hearing date. No more than 3 continuances total will be granted. An application may not be continued for more than 9 months from the original hearing date, or the application will need to restart the public hearing process.
Do you recall the vote on the added language the Planning Commission wanted?
They were in, I'm sorry, what was the question? Oh, they were all in favor of this. Sorry. Of adding the entire
The verbiage in red.
Correct.
In your interpretation on the restart the public hearing process, that's simply would be renoticing?
Correct.
Not reapplication?
Nope.
Okay.
Interesting. I know this was at our request, that this was put in there. And due to a couple of the applications that came through, was pretty much following what the proposed language is. And I think at that point we were thinking this is getting a little lengthy. Did they go into any detail on why they thought that going to the full 3 different continuances for 9 months was preferable than just a 3-month and start over?
Some applications can get a little held back. If someone gets held up by the Department of Water, that can be 18 months right there. It could be 5 months. It can be anywhere in between. So the planning commission, they liked the 3 continuances because it allowed them to, okay, if you don't have something that's required 3 months, but you can have it at the 4th month, there's no real reason why an applicant should be pushed back so far to restart when they have something ready at the 4th month, if that makes sense.
No, I understand that. When if there's circumstances that they can't control, I fully understand that. But part of our problem there was there were perhaps some not fully complete applications that were coming before us that was requiring the continuances. So I'm looking at both sides here. I'm not sure where we land, because we definitely don't want to punish an applicant if it's not their problem, but we don't want to have incomplete applications coming before us either. So I guess I would be in favor of some more discussion on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 9 months is a long time, especially to have big yellow signs that say the hearing was held 9 months ago. It's still up, so I'm not sure if there's an accommodation, I mean, where we're not paying for mailers, not paying for newspapers, but maybe if you have a continuance that's longer than we're going to meet at our, we'll continue to the next meeting. If we're looking at months between sessions of the hearing, I think we got to at least replace the notice signs with or the signage continued to a date or something to that effect, because it truly, I mean, I know it looks to the public like we just keep kicking the can down the road until nobody's paying attention, and then a decision is made, and I know why it's understandable. So
Would you all feel more comfortable if maybe just the sentence was removed that said, essentially taking out the 3 extensions and just continuances must be to a specific time and date not to exceed 3 months from the original hearing date, and end it there, so that there aren't extensions, understanding the concern about, the notice, because 90 days is probably a pretty long time. And there's typically there would be 6 meeting options, 3 at the minimum, within that time frame. Would that be more comfortable?
To me, the 9 months is too long. And the reason for that is people at my age can't remember their name that long. So you got to be able to have it so that you can still remember the hearing that caused you to continue it.
Right.
And, the 3 months I'm cool with, and I'd even go to 4 months if you insisted. But the whole point is that it has to be a limited amount of time.
Absolutely. I would assume, I would ask the commission, if we have a 3-month window in there, let's say something was continued to the next meeting, if there wasn't a quorum, it could be continued again as long as it was within the 3 months, correct? So that should accommodate most situations.
bring it down to 3 months, and that last phrase after the comma, I think of the application, or,
Just taking.
or renotice of the application may be directed, or some language that allows us to direct renotification if we do feel that we've gotten to excessive circumstances where.
Oh.
Yeah, and stealing from what Chris just said there, the one that comes to mind if we're waiting for some government agency at the state level or something, and we didn't get it in the 3 months, I wouldn't be objecting if we had some specificity like that, but it has to be limited.
I mean, I think procedurally, I think we'd prefer that we don't schedule hearings until
Agreed.
we have, I mean, if water is usually the long pole in all of this, so if they don't have a water decree or they're waiting, we just don't notice the hearing until we,
Absolutely,
Like
and I think staff
resolution.
is absolutely moving in that direction to not bring things that aren't fully ready. Absolutely. So would you be comfortable with just the 3 months, and we could take out all the language following the sentence?
yeah. And like I said, I'm okay if we change, or the applicant may be directed to renotice. I mean, if we can do it in 3 months and 2 weeks, we probably, I mean, just to give us that wiggle room of a may versus, I guess, keep the language, but the application may need, and then, or maybe, I don't know, where do you think should that be our decision, staff decision, or just we're gonna do it regardless?
There'll always be exceptions. I mean, I think it would be rare that there's a problem if you do set, a hard date. We can work around that. Or you could add a sentence that says, or as otherwise approved by the CDS director, or by the county manager, or the board.
Yeah, I do the CDS director, I think, because the other thing we don't want is, okay, just because of the calendar, it's 3 months and 2 days, and then we get a court challenge because
Right.
we didn't follow our regulation, and we failed to notice properly.
Sure.
and
We
deal
could
with
just add a
106
comment and say
over.
unless otherwise approved by the CDS director, just in
Yeah.
case there was a
Yeah,
brief.
catch all, because again, when it comes to notice, if putting a letter of the law up and
Yes.
don't provide ourselves room to wiggle, we'll lose something.
Of course.
06 for silly reasons.
Mike. Okay. So with no other comments on this one, so we removed some of that language and then added, I have it on my sheet for a condition, unless otherwise approved by CDS director at the end of that paragraph. Now, this same blurb, is for the Board of Adjustments and for the Board of County Commissioners as well. The language is presented the same for each one of those. Would you like to make these changes to those as well? Perfect. Nope, and I guess they are on the next slide. Sorry, it was the same things, my bad. Yep. Apologies. All right, number 7, again, this one is rather minor, but, hold on, let me pull up. Okay, so for these, we are just proposing to make the signature block language match the signature block exhibits in the back of the regulations. So nothing's changing, we're just essentially making them match, because as of right now, the exhibits say that the fire protection district is required for a signature block, and the language does not. So we're making them match. And then at the bottom, the EDZ site development plan, as of right now, it references Article 3G. We are changing that so it follows Article 3H, which is the correct reference.
Just to back up on the previous one, of adding the fire protection, just out of curiosity, who's in charge of tracking down someone from the fire districts to sign?
So that part is on the applicants.
The applicant has
Yes.
to do that?
Mhm.
And they'll have it with them to take to them, or they have to come here?
So the applicant are required to get signatures from like the owner's certificate, the fire protection, the notary, and the title company on their own. And then they bring the Mylars to us and we collect all the internal agencies.
Thank you for the clarification.
So, under owner, that does include title or lien holders?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I think in the past, we had somehow dropped lien holders off, and there was a potential of subdividing and selling a parcel, allow the sale of a parcel that somebody held a lien on the entirety of. So as long as we're capturing that, I'm good.
Perfect. Number 8. So this is the minor special use by review process. We are proposing adding language regarding the community meeting. The proposed language is copied and pasted from a different section of the regulations, and that language states, a community meeting may be required prior to formal submittal at the discretion of the CDS director. The CDS director shall take into consideration existing land use patterns and other allowable use in the general area of the proposal, meaning that if the applicant feels that they don't need a community meeting, they can request to have it waived.
So prior to this, it was a hard requirement for regardless of the use.
How did the planning commission vote on this one?
They were not opposed. They were in favor of this one.
Yeah, as long as we're not waiving it completely. You just never know what's minor to us.
Anytime we're cutting red tape is a good thing.
Perfect. And then the other language that we're proposing to change is also associated with the minor special use, and it states that the minor special use exhibit shall follow Article 3E, Section 7 of these regulations, except that the signature blocks and certification shall not include Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners, because it's an administrative process. Number 9, we are proposing entirely new language in Article 2, Section B, specifically on page 35, and it states, the applicant shall submit list and map of property owners and addresses at the time of application process step that requires public noticing. List and map of property owners shall not be generated more than 6 months prior to submittal. Again, this is referencing radius reports, and the reason for this language is that someone can come in for a pre-app, submit an application the next week, and then they could come back for hearing 3 years later and still use the same radius report. In 3 years, you can get a bunch of new neighbors. So we decided on 6 months just because that gives enough time for new neighbors to come in, old neighbors to leave, this, that, and the other. Perfect. And in addition, we are proposing additional language stating that the applicant is required to submit the list and map of other property owners within the other county jurisdictions. Again, it's just that repetitive for clarification, have it stated multiple times.
Okay. And I apologize for this, but could you add apostrophe S after county in that it's other counties, jurisdictions, not other jurisdictions of our county?
Yes, I will change. Thank you.
I don't think we have any other jurisdictions, but I want to be really clear that there are other counties.
Okay. Number 10 and the very last one. So this is for the sign posting notarized affidavit. So we've had some questions about this, so we are proposing that we add 4 words into this to make it more specific. The new language would read, I hereby certify under oath that the required notice sign or signs was or were posted on the subject property for 14 consecutive days prior to public hearing as required by the Elbert County zoning regulations.
East Amendment? I appreciate that. So that was 10. Was the first one the only one we had questions on, or?
So I have conditions to number 2. Let me go back. The changes to the public hearing sign, and then to, oh, geez. Number 6, which is the continuance language.
Which was the one that the planning commission recommended not be adopted? Was that the absolute first one?
First one.
The pre-application waiver language.
And I think I understand their reasoning for being opposed to this, but I like the idea of giving flexibility to the department. We need to be able to trust our employees and directors to make decisions like this, if this is really significant or not, to have a pre-application meeting. It makes it easier for our citizens who are doing minor changes within their property, which I think we need to clear the path if we can to allow them to do what they'd like to do in their property. So even though I understand the reasoning behind the Planning Commission voting against it, I am in favor of keeping this in there.
I mean, I trust, just in the same vein, I mean, you're not going to waive a pre-app meeting as, just to make it harder for you when the application comes in. And I know we do have some very professional, experienced applicant reps that can handle stuff as a matter of course that don't need a special meeting just to tell them what they already know. So, but again, like I said, if you think an unrepresented person needs some hand-holding, you're not gonna just make more work for everybody, so I'm okay with it. So that being said, would you like just one motion to adopt 1 through 10 with the changes as discussed?
Perfect.
Okay, I would accept a motion to accept changes 1 through 10 with the minor changes as discussed.
So moved.
All righty, so to third it, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. All 10 are adopted with minor changes as discussed. And you are right, this was lots of fun.
It is fun. No? Okay.
But it sounds like you're going to have a bigger list next time.
We got another meeting scheduled Monday if you'd like to bring
No,
more.
no.
And we can always fit one in on the 7th of January.
I think I'm
If
busy.
you want to work through the holidays on it.
If you think this is fun, you're in the right profession. Just say it.
Thank you much. No other land use stuff? Nope, okay, so no other business before us. I would accept a motion to adjourn for the day.
So moved.
Second.
All right, you're not going to stop me?
I would no, go right ahead.
Okay, all in favor, please, of adjourning, please say aye.
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 Aye, we are adjourned. It is 2:33.